Welcome back, casual gardeners. We don't all have the luxury of gardening in a garden. A lot of us, more than ever, are renting or living in townhomes or other situations where our yard is small to non-existent. Growing in a container is its own thing. And as you can see, even though I have an absolutely massive garden, I don't mean to flex, but I still choose to grow in containers. So first, let's talk about selecting your container. Bigger is better. In a larger container, you're going to have reduced evaporative loss, so that means you don't have to water as often. You're going to have more thermal mass in that container, which means that as the days heat up, it's going to take longer for your soil to heat up, and as the days cool down, again, it's going to take longer for your soil to match that temperature. And that's going to help your plants out quite a bit, especially in the summer months. In a larger container, you have more room for roots. Most plants, including the smallest plants, are going to need at least 8 inches of container depth to put their roots in. I mean, we don't think about roots because they're out of sight, ideally, if everything's going well. But those roots go down for a reasonable distance into the soil. If you've got at least a foot in depth, you can grow most things. And then, of course, larger containers are going to give you more options in terms of what you want to grow. Like if you get a big enough container, you can grow a small willow tree on your patio. All right, you can choose from a number of materials for free, which is the best price ever. You can take a gallon jug and you can cut off the slanty bit at the top and you can poke some holes in the bottom, and that is a free 1 gallon growing container. And in a gallon container, there's a lot of stuff you can grow. If you want to spend some money, but not like a ton, you can get a 5-gallon bucket at a big box store. And a 5-gallon bucket is large enough to grow most things you might want to grow. So that's a really good deal. I don't remember how much they are. Grow bags are another affordable option when it comes to container gardening, because you're just basically paying for, this fabric. It's usually polyester, so if you're worried about plastic, this is not the option for you. This is a 20-gallon grow bag because I've got a big patio. But you can find grow bags in just about every capacity from 1 gallon all the way up to 20. You can use about any material to make your containers for container gardening. These are some scrap wood planters that I just kind of knocked together. This is an $8 planter, affordable. Now, another thing you've got to consider when you're buying your container is drainage. Your container must drain. So if there aren't any holes in the bottom, and I know with some of the larger pots you don't get holes in the bottom, you're going to want to drill some holes in the bottom of that container. All right, next you got to consider, where am I going to put my container? The ideal exposure for a container garden is south-facing exposure with sun in the morning and shade in the evening. If you have that, you have the golden goose of container gardens. You are set. Runners up would be an eastern exposure or a western exposure, because then you're still getting at least 6 hours of light in a day, which means you can probably grow cherry tomatoes at the very least. And then, of course, if you have a north-facing patio or balcony, you may find yourself limited to shade-tolerant crops and shade-tolerant flowers. But there's actually still quite a bit you can do in that situation as well. Before you fill your containers, it's important to consider that you're gardening on a surface that is not the ground. And that means that if you have the bottom of your container in contact with your patio or your balcony, there's going to be standing water underneath your container that doesn't evaporate well. And that can lead to structural damage. That's especially problematic if you're renting. You don't want to pay for that. You're going to want to use something under your planter to raise it up off your surface. And there is, in fact, another advantage to raising your planter up off the surface, and that is that you are eliminating habitat that would otherwise be used by slugs and earwigs and woodlice to come out at night and munch on your goodies. So this is going to save you money in the long run by, getting your cleaning deposit back. It's going to save you money in the short run by eliminating pest habitat. When you're filling your containers, whatever you decide to go with, choose a medium that is going to be good quality and isn't going to compact. This is not somewhere where you want to just dig up some dirt and throw it in there. So I've gone with what's cheap and ticks all the boxes. You want to keep in mind that there's this myth out there that if you put rocks or volcanic rocks or something at the bottom of your container, it will reduce your soil use and improve your drainage. One of those things is true. You will reduce your soil use, but you're going to do that at the expense of room for roots. And as we've already discussed, you need room for your roots. Another problem is that you don't actually improve your drainage by putting stuff at the bottom of your pot or container. You actually make the drainage worse because water doesn't like to run through changes in material very much. It'll just kind of hang up there. Because water sticks to this stuff better than it will stick to the rocks, it'll just wind up sticking to it. And you'll find that your soil drains more slowly with the rocks there than it would if you didn't have rocks at all. What can you put in your containers? This is kind of the fun part, right? We're talking about the actual growing of the things. And I'm limiting my discussion to stuff you might want to eat. There are thousands of types of flowers out there that you can probably put in your container as well. I am planting a flower. I'm planting black scabiosa. And the reason I'm planting it is because my wife is dying. No, not that kind of dying. She's textile dying. And you can use black scabiosa as a dye plant. Pretty sweet. I started them indoors in soil blocks, and they are beyond ready to be planted out. Soil blocks are awesome because you can just drop them in. I've been so preoccupied with my outdoor garden. I've been failing as an indoor gardener. These guys are a little bit wilted. If you've got 1 gallon containers, then you can grow things like lettuce and arugula and Swiss chard and spinach, smaller members of the cabbage family, and cilantro. You can grow herbs like rosemary and basil and thyme and mint in your containers, and oregano. This is some rosemary I started from seed indoors. Here in Logan, we grow rosemary as an annual because it will not survive the winters outdoors. And this bed, I'm also planting thyme because this container garden is conveniently close to my kitchen. And I'm going to take full advantage. I'm going to plant this to the depth of the root ball in the pot. This is perfect timing. Looks like it was about ready to size up. I started 2 times. Does that make me a 2-timer? You can grow perennial crops like strawberries and green onions. So you've got a lot of options even in a 1 gallon container. In 2 gallon containers, you have a few more options. Everything I said before, plus in deep enough roots, you can plant root crops like carrots and beets, kale and cabbage and bok choy. You can grow smaller pepper varieties, and you can grow a cherry tomato plant in a 2 gallon container. Now these are minimal sizes. Don't grow a cherry tomato in anything smaller than a 2 gallon container. And I don't choose to grow cherry tomatoes in anything smaller than a 5 gallon container, but it's possible. In 5 gallon containers, you can grow full-size heirloom tomatoes. You can grow beans. You can grow the big cabbages. You can grow cucumbers and all of those crops. So things are looking up. And then once you get up to 10 gallons, it's 2 of those. Once you're at 10 gallons, you've pretty much maxed out. You can grow almost anything. So if you've got a 10 gallon grow bag or a 10 gallon pot, you can grow summer squash, winter squash, melons, all sorts of stuff. It's really, at this point, you're more concerned about how much room you have on your patio than you are about how much room you have in your pot. When we water our containers, we're always rinsing nutrients from the soil and out the bottom. We have to fertilize a lot more in a container, but in a container, you're also more susceptible to burning your plant due to over-fertilizing. So it's a little bit more of a tightrope. So what I recommend when you are fertilizing is that you either use a weak liquid fertilizer about weekly, or you use slow release fertilizers like blood meal or bone meal or Osmocote pellets or other organic equivalent things that are going to gradually release those nutrients into your soil and are less likely to burn your plants. During the heat of the summer, and especially in smaller containers, you might wind up having to water your container garden daily, or in small enough containers, twice daily. And that is going to get really annoying if you're doing it manually. This is a time to explore automated options. I really like to automatically water my container garden using a drip system on a smart timer. It is just so much less aggravating. There's a lot of conversation out there about when is the optimal time to water your plants. If you're growing in containers, ignore them. Water your plants whenever they need to be watered. I don't care if it's noon and it's 120 degrees out. Your container can't wait until tomorrow morning. Give it water. So that should be enough information to get you started in your container garden. I do not doubt that I've raised more questions than I've answered with this video, and that's good because I'm doing a whole series. You can help me with this container gardening series by asking me questions in the comments. If I get a lot of the same question, that'll let me know that maybe I ought to prioritize a topic. If I don't get any questions, well, I'm just going to do whatever I want because it's my channel and I do what I want. As of making this video, I need 50 more subscribers. So if you're still watching, clearly you enjoyed my video. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you liked this video, and hit the notification bell so that you do not miss the rest of my container gardening series. And as always, thank you for joining me here in my garden. I hope you have a wonderful time in your own.